On today's episode, the Patriarca family's feared Irish enforcer. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Today we're going to discuss one of the fiercest strong-arm men in the New England Underworld's history. This madman gave plenty of criminals sleepless nights throughout the 1970s and 80s. Even though he operated in the Italian-controlled city of Providence, Rhode Island, Kevin Hanrahan was very Irish. This was a common practice for dons like Raymond Patriarca Jr. and other LCN leaders across the country to hire Irish thugs and other ethnic groups to do some of the heavy lifting for them. Hanrahan made a reputation for himself growing up in the streets. As a teen, he was strong-arming people, extorting them, and straight-up robbing some people. As he grew older, his reputation grew and he became known as someone that was very capable. If you needed someone to disappear, well then Hanrahan might be the man to get the job done. In this video, I'm going to focus mostly around the years directly preceding his death. I'll discuss how one of Cadillac Frank's most lethal and loyal soldiers turned on him, and what happened because of his betrayal. Kevin Hanrahan was part of Cadillac Frank's axis of power in the late 1980s and early 1990s. While Frank Salemme was doing his long prison sentence for the failed attempt on Joe Barbossa's lawyer, John Fitzgerald, he started recruiting. Being from Boston, Frank was looking to make contacts in strategic places. He linked up with Gordon O'Brien from Taunton, who was a giant of a man and extremely terrifying, apparently. I've heard stories of guards in Walpole being so afraid of him he was allowed to keep a German Shepherd as a pet in his cell. Salemme also linked up with a very powerful guy from the Fall River, New Bedford area, aka the south coast of Massachusetts. Last time I got a lot of flack for saying his name, so I'll just call him the guy from Fall River now. And ultimately, Frank made a connection with a mad dog Irishman from Rhode Island, Kevin Hanrahan. Frank knew if he'd become boss, he would need these contacts to the south to help him run that part of his empire. I think it was always Frank's plan to try to take over the family when he got out of prison. Apparently, Kevin Hanrahan, while being extremely feared in the underworld, was known to be a gentleman to citizens and even cops. He apparently was a very dapper dresser and could be charming. But as far as other criminals in the underworld were concerned, Hanrahan was extremely dangerous, and at the end of his career, he was considered to be a loose cannon. After Raymond Sr. passed and the Angiulo brothers of the North End got hit with a RICO case, the very stable New England underworld became very unstable. Raymond Jr. tried to step into the void, and with the blessings of the Genovese family in New York, he became the Don of New England. The Boston guys like J.R. Russo and Vincent Ferrara didn't accept this, though. They felt that it was Boston's turn to run things. So the Russo's renegade faction, with the aid of the Genovese crew in Springfield, Mass., and the New Haven, Connecticut crew of the Patriarca family, took out their boss, Wild Guy Grasso, who happened to be Junior's underboss. That same day, the renegade Boston faction tried to take out Frank in a Saugus, Mass. Parking lot off of Route 1. This caused a big rift between Salemme and Junior Patriarca. When Frank got out of prison, he joined up with Junior's faction, probably because he thought it was the quickest way for him to get to the top. But while Frank lay in his hospital bed convalescing, Junior was trying to make peace with the men that tried to kill him. He probably thought he was next on the list. This, of course, enraged Frank, but more than that, Junior had promised to pay his medical bills, and now he was reneging on that as well. After Frank left the hospital, he went into hiding for a bit. When Junior and the Renegade faction members all got indicted as part of the Medford induction ceremony, Frank came out of hiding and started making moves. He wanted to get everyone that tried to whack him in that Saugus parking lot. He just seemed kind of bloodthirsty overall. He wanted his enemies and the friends of his enemies all dead. In a 3-month period from August to October of 1991, 3 men were found dead, all in similar gruesome fashions. The deaths of Howard Chinky Farini, Robert Bobby D. Donati, and Barry Lazzarini. All 3 men were connected to Frank's enemies in the North End. Right around the same time all this drama was unfolding between Junior Patriarca and Salemme, Hanrahan was out on the streets running wild. He was robbing everyone, regardless of their protection status. In this period of chaos in the New England underworld, violent guys like Kevin Hanrahan flourished. He was spending more time out of Providence now, and he was in southern Mass a lot. He had hooked up with Gordon O'Brien at Taunton, and the two were shaking down bookies, dealers, and basically anyone doing something illegal in that area. Hanrahan, O'Brien, and the guy from Fall River were all picked up in a suspected kidnapping plot of a protected bookie named Blaze Mafia in Providence, Rhode Island, so they were definitely operating together during this time period. Hanrahan and O'Brien were considered years later to be the main suspects in some, if not all three of the deaths that I just previously mentioned a minute ago. Although Mark Rossetti and another Salemme hitter by the name of Richie Gillis were rumored to be part of these crimes, the only physical evidence from the scenes were traced back to Hanrahan and O'Brien, but the two are deceased now. Seeing the similarities in these crimes, it's pretty likely that they were committed by the same perpetrators. All three of the men had been beaten and hogtied. Donati and Freeney were found stuffed in the trunks of their own cars, and Lazzarini was found in his Manomet, Massachusetts home. I meant to say Richard Devlin. His partner, his last name was Gillis, but I meant to say Richie Devlin was thought to be a possible perpetrator in one of those killings. So while he was running around with Gordon O'Brien in the Taunton area, Hanrahan was also running around with the guy from Fall River, ripping people off and robbing dealers. I believe a lot of this was narcotics fueled. It was rumored that Hanrahan was part of the disappearance of two South Coast men. Louis Alexander and Joe Savage were from Swansea and Somerset, tough cities in southern Mass. The two were well-known criminals to authorities. They also robbed dealers and liked to burglarize homes and businesses. Well, one day they disappeared and nobody heard or knew anything. Then years later, someone discovered their remains in the woods in Maine. Upon DNA testing, it was confirmed that it was Savage and Alexander. Hanrahan was always considered to be a main suspect in the disappearance and death. Hanrahan and his buddies were reckless and dangerous at this time period. Kevin began to worry a lot of guys in the underworld because of his unpredictability, and he was stepping on a lot of people's toes. The way Kevin Hanrahan was living his life, it was obvious he wasn't made to be in the world for very long. But it was when he allegedly double-crossed his quote-unquote boss, Frank Salemme, that his fate was sealed. Once Junior Patriarca was sent to prison as part of the Medford induction ceremony case, the feud between him and Cadillac Frank heated up further. Frank was mad at Junior for making peace with the guys that had tried to kill him and for failing to pay for his hospital bills. Junior resented the way that Frank stepped in and took control over the family and was not even asking for Patriarca's approval for anything. Not only this, but upon Junior's incarceration, Salemme started selling off Patriarca's custom car collection to pay for his hospital bills. This made Junior furious. Not only did Frank take over the family, casting Junior to the side, he was ordering hits left and right and not checking with anyone. But now on top of that, he was selling off Junior's most cherished possessions and keeping all the dough for himself. Allegedly, Junior sought off Kevin Hanrahan, who happened to be locked up with him at the same time. Patriarca enlisted him to turn on Cadillac Frank. Apparently, Hanrahan agreed. He was on board for the mission to take out Frank. The word is that Frank got wind of all this about how Hanrahan had switched sides and plotted with Junior to kill him. Now, whether or not Hanrahan was actually ever on board, I'm not 100% sure. Perhaps he was just trying to pacify Junior when he agreed to take out Cadillac Frank. Maybe he never really intended to do it. On the other hand, I don't think it's the whole reason that Cadillac Frank had Hanrahan taken out either. Honestly, I think a big reason why Salemme ordered Hanrahan's hit was because the guy was completely out of his mind. He was robbing and extorting everyone. I think Frank originally recruited guys like Hanrahan and O'Brien, but then he realized he couldn't control them. They were robbing everyone, even people connected or protected by Salemme. I heard that was another main reason why Cadillac Frank turned sour on Hanrahan, because he was robbing and extorting Salemme-protected bookies in the Taunton area. I think there were a lot of people in the underworld that weren't necessarily going to miss Kevin Hanrahan. Now, apparently before he was taken out, Hanrahan was trying to acquire plastic explosives to complete his mission for Junior Patriarca. Who knows how true any of this stuff really is? Most people seem to think that Hanrahan was going to go through this plot to take out Salemme. Hanrahan was trying to allegedly secure enough plastic explosives from a man named Smitty to take out Frank and his underboss Luigi Baby Shack's Minacchio. This lunatic Hanrahan was planning on blowing up the entire Euro Bistro restaurant in Providence just because Baby Shacks lived upstairs. His plan was to wait till Minacchio was comfortably chilling at home and then he was going to blow up the entire building. Then apparently he had a more high-tech angle with Salemme. Informants told the authorities that Hanrahan was planning on strapping plastic explosives onto a remote-control plane, then he was going to fly it into an open window of Frank's bedroom and detonate it, killing Salemme and his wife. I think people can get a sense of why this guy had to go. There would be absolutely no order in the underworld with loose cannons like this were just running around free. Finally, in September of 1992, Frank gave the order to put his mad dog down. I think the fact that word got back to Frank that Hanrahan was trying to whack him and his underboss was the final nail in the coffin. Hanrahan was on thin ice before this anyway. Frank's non-Cosa Nostra muscle were too unpredictable and couldn't be controlled any longer. Salemme gave the word to his trusted capo, who would later turn FBI informant Robert Bobby DeLuca. He in turn traveled to Providence and gave the order to underboss Luigi Baby Shack's Minacchio. It was time to take out the Irishman. On September 18, 1992, Kevin Hanrahan showed up to the Arch Steakhouse on Federal Hill, Providence, Rhode Island. He told people he was going there to get a big piece of a score that was owed to him. Instead, he got set up. Upon leaving the steakhouse, Hanrahan was hit in the face 3 times at close range. He was dead upon arrival to the hospital. Authorities believe the culprits and people involved in the setup had to be close to Hanrahan. They had to have his trust in order to get so close to him. Cadillac Frank Salemme wasn't able to enjoy being the boss. His years at the helm were some of the bloodiest and most treacherous in Boston's history. Frank used non-Italian henchmen like Hanrahan, O'Brien, and the guy from Fall River because it was easy to cut them loose when he no longer needed them. But they were also very unpredictable, dangerous, and hard to control. Cosa Nostra meant nothing to a guy like Hanrahan. When he wanted something, he took it. He didn't care who it belonged to. The guy was absolutely fearless, but he was also very reckless, and that's why he didn't last very long in the streets. He was feared amongst men who were feared in their own right. I mean, just look at that mug. Cadillac Frank flexed his power as boss of the family and ordered the Providence faction to take out Hanrahan. DeLuca told Monacchio, and he allegedly ordered another feared Providence mobster to do it. I'm not going to say his name, but you can find out for yourself if you're interested. Other people have written about it and spoken about it, but I'd rather not. Either way, Kevin Hanrahan died the way he lived. Bloody. Cadillac Frank Salemme used his non-Italian associates to do a lot of his dirty work until he was able to gain control over the Patriarca family, which I believe is ultimately always his goal. Once he acquired the power, he really didn't need them anymore, plus they were proven to be troublesome, especially Hanrahan. So did Salemme make up the whole plot to have him and Baby Shax killed? Did Junior ever have a conversation with Hanrahan to take them out? I'm not really sure. It's not completely unbelievable Frank was about as treacherous as they come. That's how he became boss. By 1995, he was already off the streets. He would never again see power in the underworld, but his short reign was the most chaotic and deadliest time in organized crime's history in the hub. The mob's never really been the same in Boston after the conflict in the 1990s. The LCN in Boston and Providence have had to adapt and overcome after Cadillac Frank's bloodbath. I hope you guys liked this quick video. Clamming sucks right now, so I might be making a lot more videos in the near future. Give me some requests if you guys want to see specific topics. Don't forget to hit the like button, and if you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. We just passed 6,000 subscribers, guys, so thank you so much. The channel's been growing fast, especially in the last few months. But you know what the most important thing is: to make good choices, good decisions, take good care of yourselves, your friends, your family, your fellow human beings. Try to have a nice day. I'll talk to you guys real soon. God bless.